Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC. Today we have a round of Formula Challenge from Suzuka, the fast flowing Suzuka in Japan. It looks to be damp, and that is going to be a very exciting point of action in this race, because that's not just damp, that is pretty darn treacherous out there. And we all know how difficult Suzuka is in the wet, because it does tend to get fairly wet at Suzuka. It seems to be wet there in real life as well, and that makes sense since we have, of course, a live weather system, and the drivers will all be on full wet tyres, struggling for control out there in the qualifying session. The qualifying session starting in just a few seconds' time. I'm your commentator for the day, Caitlin Penny. Your usual commentator, I'm afraid, could not make it, although I am more than happy to be GPVWC's knight in shining armour again. And the broadcast director and streamer, of course, is your usual Szymon Frelik. I'm just loading into the server, although I can see what's going on because of Szymon's fantastic Discord stream as well, so thank you very much. Now, if you're unaware of how Formula Challenge tends to run, it's going to be a 13-lap sprint followed by another 13-lap sprint, so two relatively short races that should be about maybe 20-25 minutes in length, possibly a bit longer considering the rain, but we'll have to see. Whoa, as cars come together in the pit lane as the qualifying session prepares to get underway. And of course, the second of those races starts in partially reverse grid order of the first race. A number is drawn between 10 and 15, and that number of cars is reversed in the starting order for race 2. But first of all, we've got to focus on qualifying. It's a very standard qualifying session, no knockout or anything like that, just a pure 15 minutes of driving to see who is the fastest driver and what order they should start from on the starting grid. Now, I'm expecting most of the cars to peel out of the pits pretty much straight away. Dylan Platt there appears to be the first driver out. But all of the drivers need to go out now because there's a chance that the track is going to get even wetter if it begins to rain again. Of course, it could always get drier, and if it does so, then it will probably be the last few laps in the qualifying session that will be the most important, as Platt gets it all sorts of wrong, although somehow keeps it in the straight and narrow. Very well done. But anyway, but of course they can't guarantee that it's going to get dry for the whole session. Look how treacherous it is out there. You've got to avoid the curbs like that. Someone popping through on the inside, that's Mikael Tuamala, who takes the lead of the train. And it does very much look like the first lap of a race out there, doesn't it? As drivers try to get around and be the first driver to start a flying lap. I am now on the server, jolly good, although... oh, look at that. Up the inside again goes Dylan Platt. They really are scrabbling for position in the early stages of this qualifying session. And who can blame them? Because they are racing the weather right now. And that's one of the things I love about wet qualifying sessions. Through into second in the chain goes, is that, oh, as my sound suddenly kicks into gear, hold on a second, I've got to turn it down before it completely deafens me. There we go, now I can hear myself think again. And Platt sets up for his first flying lap, puts the power down out of the Casio triangle and heads for the start-finish line. The timer will start as soon as he crosses the line. Incidentally, the other car getting involved there was Darius Andre, one of the big hitters in this championship. Turn 1, of course, fast double right-hander, very, very difficult, especially in the wet. And then, of course, you head into a sequence of S's, similar to Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, and Silverstone in the way that they keep getting steeper and steeper, although the difference here is that this is actually slightly uphill and also slightly longer and a little bit slower, so that is what distinguishes this circuit from Silverstone. Then you have the Dunlop curve, turn 7, and then the Degners, both right-handers, both very difficult. It's tightening in radius, and that is going to be the accident black spot of the track. It does tend to be anyway. Now into the hairpin, and that hairpin does have a name. I'm going to get up the track map now, but anyway. And then down towards Spoon, and Spoon, of course, is the left-hander. 2 apexes on this one as well. Suzuka very much likes the double apex corner, and this is a good example of it because this is another tightening radius one, although it's still not fairly tight on the exit, it's just long and relatively slow for the type of corner that it actually is. And then of course we head across the underpass. Now this track of course is a figure of 8 course, although it doesn't look like it from the surface. And then over 130R, the fastest corner on the circuit, followed by the Casio Triangle, and then the end of the lap, the last corner. DRS would be available there if it was dry. It is not dry, obviously, and Dylan Platt's lap is a 152.518, 518, sorry, which is already beaten by Jake Dennehan. Jake Dennehan going 0.6 of a second faster in his challenge for the pole position, and that was a very good opening lap from Jake Dennehan. River Machete is now second as he crosses the line in the Team Frelik car, and the rest of the field streams through. Tuamala goes 4th, Machete goes off. In terms of the championship, the drivers to look out for Jake Dennehan and Darius Andre. Those 2 drivers racing, of course, for the TCS Off racing team have been the top 2 pretty much all the way through this championship, and have been relatively equal as well. Darius Andre 26 points behind Jake Dennehan, but that is partly because he missed the French round where Jake Dennehan got a victory. Mike Quint is 3rd in the championship, and he's racing for Alpha Delta Racing. And then the remainder of the top 10 in the championship are Scott Mitchell, Dylan Platt, Isaac Morris, who took a long break from this series but appears to have returned, and then Jack Nichols, Joseph Herlock, Fabian Ruth, and Luke Mitchell. So that is the top 10 in the Drivers' Championships. The teams to look out for, of course, TCS Off, Alpha Delta, Team Frelik, Kings Racing, and Thunderdog. Interesting that the top 2 teams in this are Canadian. It's a complete coincidence, but obviously Canadian teams going well in this championship so far. And the top Canadian driver is Andrew Waring in 15th, who took 2 victories earlier this season, but hasn't made that many rounds at all. Anyway, back to the qualifying session. We have 9 minutes to go. The rain does not appear to be coming down at the minute, and that means that the track is likely going to be getting faster as the session goes along. And if the rain starts again, then that will pretty much put an end to the qualifying order as we see it. Oh, Jake Dennehan has an off, sorry, as I'm looking at him. But yeah, it'll pretty much put an end to the qualifying session. Tom van der Voort there goes 11th as he crosses the line, which may not seem like much, but when you realise that there are 31 cars in the session so far, then you start to realise that actually getting anywhere near the top 10 is quite an achievement in this league. It is very competitive. And having driven it in it myself, I can tell you that even though this is the 4th ladder of the 4th rung of the GPVWC ladder, it still feels like one of the most competitive championships that you will ever have the chance to be a part of. A lot of yellow flags showing, and I'm afraid in these conditions that is not a big surprise whatsoever, but there is also a dry line forming on the racing line there, so I'm wondering whether someone's going to risk it and go for inters before the end of this qualifying session. That could be the difference between, well, it could be worth seconds at this rate. No inters in this series, I'm just being told. Thank you, Szymon. I really should have known that since I raced in this series. And I've done wet races as well, actually. I think Shanghai race too, but obviously I didn't. Thank you very much, Szymon. Anyway, so that was another lap completed there for one of the downforce cars. Still, it's Dennehan, Machete, and Quint, so it stayed pretty much the same since the very start of this session. And I think the downforce car that we were just looking at may have been Well, it wasn't Maciej Sandak because he is still yet to set a lap. Oh, someone jumping up the order. I think Isaac Morris just made an improvement, went to 9th position in the top esports car. Isaac Morris, of course, was part of the Nova Finlandia team at the start of this championship, although Nova Finlandia have not been showing up in quite a while now, I'm afraid to say. However, they have been replaced. And of course, Top Esports, who Isaac Morris is now racing for, are the team that came in midway through this championship, and obviously making their mark. They've signed one of the top talents in the series so far in Isaac Morris, and of course the other driver that they've been entering with so far has been Tom Voss. And Voss, of course, scored a 7th place in the first race he did. Isaac Morris scored a 4th place at the last outing, so they're getting very close to a podium. Both of them in the top 10 as we're speaking, actually, so good start for the top racing team. I'm surprised, actually, the times really don't seem to be coming down at the minute, despite the fact I don't see any rain. I don't believe that it's raining at present, although we haven't really seen any improvements in this session so far, which is not what we'd expect. I expect towards the end of the session, though, the drivers will be really going for it, knowing that time is running out. Here's Dylan Platt improving on his first sector time and heading through 130R, which is scary in the wet. Not sure if it's quite flat, probably not in the wet. It would be in the dry. Purple sector 2, fastest of anyone in the second sector there. He's being held up a little in the third sector. There's a car right ahead of him as he's coming into the final turn, kicking up spray into his face, but Dylan Platt goes second and just misses out on pole, and I actually think that's probably the difference there, 0.025. That's probably the time he lost being held up. So I think Dylan Platt is probably capable of more there, and he does still have time to go faster if indeed he can. I'm interested here. Is Ruben Machete completing a lap, or is he about to start another one? Let's see if... oh, he goes pole. So Ruben Machete, 151.461, puts him provisional pole position in this session. Very well done indeed. And Ben Willis now goes into 8th position. Sorry, Szymon, what was that? Ah, yep, Denahan's purple in sector 1. So I was just hearing something in my ear from Szymon Frelik, the broadcast director, and couldn't quite understand what it was. But indeed, Jake Denahan is coming back at Ruben Machete. He's retaliating. Unfortunately, I still don't have my live timing app open, so it's kind of hard to see. But Jake Denahan is going very well. He's following... Is that one of the Team Furlich cars through? But anyway, yes, that's... No, it's not. Never mind. But Jake Denahan seems to have enough of a gap to get through cleanly. Around the final corner, across the line, and it is... Wow, my goodness, it's a 148.512, and I've just noticed actually that's because he is on slick tyres. He's the first driver to brave it on slick tyres, and not only was he controllable around that lap, he was astonishingly fast. He's 3 seconds faster than anyone else in this session so far, and I tell you what, it's slick times, well and truly. Mike Quint is currently out there on slicks. Ruben Machete is not, so he's got to get back into the pits and put them on. However, I imagine that at this rate, it's going to be the last driver across the line that has the real advantage in this session. The last driver to start their flying lap is going to be the driver who gets the advantage from the slick tyres boost. Machete coming into the pits as expected, as he sets up. And look at Mike Quint now, also on the slick tyres and going fastest of anyone in the first sector, improving in the second. And some changes to the order, although they seem to be further down the top 10. Keep watching Quint. Well, bit wide, bit off the racing line. Can't afford to do that on slick tyres. Is that going to cost him provisional pole position out of the final corner? No, it doesn't. Look at that. 148.375 puts him at the head of the field by a 1/10 of a second. Damien Scaron now goes third. He is also on the slicks, although quite a way off the top drivers on slicks. Kevin Morville now third on slicks. Joseph Herlock now third. The times are beginning to really tumble. This is fantastic stuff, and it's setting us up for a very, very tense end to the qualifying session, as drivers are suddenly getting confident on these slicks. The track's still looking very shiny and wet, especially offline, but there is a dry line forming, so if you can keep it on that line, don't make any mistakes around the lap, then you should be okay. Talking of okay, someone who's more than okay is Darius Sandro. Purple in both of the first two sectors. This is going to be an improvement. Up to 6th goes LeHou. 6th goes Luke Mitchell. Let's watch Denahan. Sorry, I didn't mean Denahan, did I? I meant Andre. Pole position, as expected, by 4/10 of a second. First driver in the 147. Great stuff. Session continuing on. Damien Scaron improves in the first sector, slightly down in the second, and he's actually quite a way down in the order so far, I'm afraid to say, or at least not in the order, but in terms of the timing sheet, he's 2 seconds down. Let's see if he improves on this lap. No improvement from Damien Scaron there, so made a couple of mistakes. Does have another attempt though, if he has the fuel and tyres for it, because you are allowed to go for multiple runs. Meanwhile, the qualifying session is almost at a 0, and both of the TTS off cars are in the pits. Now that may be a costly mistake, because now the track is at its driest and fastest. Heijs Sonneveld goes 5th. Mike Quint out of the final corner, just in time to start another flying lap, I think. I think he just made it. Kevin Morville goes 5th. Keep watching the times tumble. They're going to keep tumbling. Is anyone going to knock Darius Andre off pole position? I have a feeling that might actually happen, even though no one seems to be that close in terms of the times just yet. This is the fastest the track's been so far this session, so I don't think he's as safe as he looks. Especially if Quint and Herlock both did manage to start final flying laps. Quint's being held up here. He's got 2 cars battling right ahead of him. Oh, one of them coming straight onto the line, and he touches them. That's going to be Quint's lap ruined. There's a big crash in the Degners. So that's the end of Quint's lap there. Herlock comes through the yellow flag zone, but he doesn't have to obey the yellow flags. If there's no car on track, then the general rule in sim racing goes that you don't really have to abide by the yellows. Look at Tuamala goes 2nd. 2nd place, 4/10 off the leader, but it is still the front row of the grid temporarily. Damien Scaron coming through. Mike Bell goes 8th. Scaron looks to be fast. And it is pole. I told you it wasn't safe for the TTS off drivers. Damien Scaron, provisional pole, 147.840. It may not be the session over yet though. I'm waiting for Joseph Herlock. Dylan Platt goes pole by 7/10. That's got to be pole, right? That's got to be it. I think Herlock's going to be the last driver to cross the line in anger. But it's looking very good for Dylan Platt now. And a spin! Herlock's lost it! Quint goes 2nd, and that... How did Quint go 2nd? He touched the... Wow! Well, if Quint had not had that contact, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have gone pole. That's an unbelievable lap from Mike Quint. Not sure if the stewards will be looking at that, but anyway. And that will be the end of this qualifying session. And what a session it was. Drivers losing out by just not going out at the right time. Dylan Platt takes pole position, followed by Mike Quint, Damien Scaron, Darius Andre, and Nicola Tuamala, the top 5. This is going to be a very jumbled up starting order, which should make for a very, very fun race. This is great stuff. Let me double check actually, do we have any penalties? Yes, we do. Alex LeHou has a 10 place penalty, but anyway, let's take a look at the order so far. Platt, Quint, Scaron, and Andre, Tuamala, Denahan, Herlock, Morville, Sonneveld, and Bell, the top 10. And then Mitchell, And of course, Lahu is the top driver there who won't be in his starting place because he, of course, has a grid penalty. Isaac Morris all the way down in 18th position. It's not what he would like. That's actually 19th position because there appear to be two 15ths for some reason. I'm afraid the timing glitch there has happened a couple of times. But anyway, and you can see just how spread out the times are there. And that's simply because of how quickly the track changed towards the end. Let's see who else is a long way down the order. Jack Nichols, the Formula E commentator, being caught out. Some other relatively quick drivers a long way down the field. Tommy Corrivan in there, P30. And then last on the grid is going to be Kenny Singleton, who did not set a flying lap in qualifying. Didn't head out in qualifying at all. So that is the end of the qualifying session. We now have 10 minutes of warm-up before the start of the first of two races. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to take a quick break since I'm on my own and I don't want to tire my voice out. But we will be back in just a few minutes' time for race 1 of 2 here in Formula Challenge. Okay, welcome back everyone to GPVWC. Of course, this is still the Formula Challenge. We haven't gone ahead a few days or events while you haven't been looking, and we are preparing for the start of the first race with a little bit of a muddled up grid due to a fantastically tense qualifying session, which ended with the track getting drier and drier and the times getting faster and faster, and the last drivers really benefiting and taking some pretty quick lap times. Just a couple of seconds now until the start of the formation lap. I'm, of course, your commentator, Caitlin Penny, and the broadcast director is Szymon Frelik, as you can see on your screen. And this is going to be a 13-lap race. I just want to work out, actually, theoretically, could Jake Dennehan take the championship today? I don't think so, because he's 26 points ahead of Darius Andre, and there's still 2 rounds to go after this. Which means that actually, theoretically, he could, but he would pretty much need Darius Andre to score no points at all. So we're not really going to think about that. It's not something that's going to happen today. What is more likely, actually, I think TCS have already wrapped up the Constructor or Teams Championship, haven't they? Never mind, let's not talk about championships that much today. All that really matters is the points and setting themselves up for the fight towards the end of this championship. Away we go on the formation lap, or at least we will in a couple of seconds. No one's moving for some bizarre reason, but anyway, every driver appears to be on slick tires right now. I don't see any drivers on wets, and that is to be expected considering how dry this track has become. And now we do head away on the formation lap. So let's take a look at the starting grid for this Formula Challenge race as soon as we can get it. I believe there are a couple of drivers starting from the pits for some reason. But anyway, Dylan Platt is going to be on pole position, followed by Mike Quint after some phenomenal late qualifying performances. Then Damien Scaron and Darius Andre, Mikael Tuamala, Jake Dennehan, Joseph Herlock, and Kevin Morville. Then Heis Sonneveld will be P9. 10th is going to be Mike Bell, and then it is Luke Mitchell and Reuven Machete. And then just outside of the top 12, Tom Voss in the Top Esports car. Top Esports were looking so good, and then it kept getting drier and it went away from them. And Scott Mitchell, Damir Karatko, and Tom Vandervoort. Maxime Bewley will be starting from the pits, and it's Isaac Morris, then Willis, Maciej Sandak. Jack Nichols will be P21 ahead of Alexander Lehoux, who has a grid penalty. Massimilio Riboli, and then Dan Hyatt, Stan Vleitstra, Kenny Leibier, Darren Halsall, Jessica Pelletier, and then Justin Rulan and Tommy Koivunen round out the grid. Well, actually, Kenny Singleton will the grid in 31st position after not setting a qualifying time. So only one driver starting from the pits that I saw, Maxime Bewley. A little bit of a surprise since he was in the top 20, but I guess just wanting to avoid any starting chaos which may occur in the first few corners. Now, did anyone further back go for wets? Because sometimes people do that, hoping that it's going to start raining and they'll get a shot victory or something like that. It can work, but probably won't. Actually, yeah, no one has gone for the wet tires. Maybe that's why Maxime Bewley decided to come into the pits on the opening lap, just to assess whether, before the start of the formation lap, just to assess whether the weather would pick up again. Anyway, the drivers getting into place on the starting grid. Dylan Platt on the left-hand side, Mike Quint on the right. Kenny Singleton will round out the field. We're missing a driver for some reason. Someone's disappeared. There was someone in the top 16 as well. It's Jake Dennehan. The championship leader is missing. The championship leader is missing as we prepare to go to the start of this race. That is dramatic. And I don't know why that is. But anyway, here come the lights. And when they go out, we'll be underway. And it's go for a Jake Dennehan-less race. Dylan Platt is going to not lead because look at Damien Scaron. Brilliant start from Scaron. Damien Scaron takes the lead into turn 1, sweeps through, and up to second goes Mike Quint. So a bad start for Platt, who gets forced out wide. Platt goes very wide, keeps out of the gravel, but he is going to drop all the way down the order into the mid-pack. He's still off the road, still on the grass. Bad start for Dylan Platt. Further back, Raboli only just gets away after slight contact with Jack Nichols. Right at the back, it looks as if everyone's still pointing in the right direction, or at least they were until, oh no, that's the two Deltec cars coming together. So someone committing the cardinal sin of motorsport there as Pelletier crashes with Leibeer. Well, not a full-on crash. They haven't seriously damaged their cars, but they have been for a slight off. Further up the order, let's see if Scaron can start to extend his lead after that fantastic start. He's got Mike Quint behind him, and then Tuamala, Andre, and Herlock make up the remainder of the top 5. So that's who you were looking at there. Stan Vleidstra is the last driver on track, who you're looking at there in the Veloce car. Kenny Singleton in the other Veloce car already up 5 places. Looks like Vleidstra may have had a brief little excursion or something like that to find himself behind the Deltex. Up the hill we go, looking at Damir Karatko, P13, and further up we've got a move, Tom Voss up the inside of... Oh, and a spin! Oh, and a big crash! A big hit in 130R! Machete is involved, and Voss was involved, and now there's carnage on the Exeter's cars, continue to lose wings and fly off the road. Absolute carnage down at 130R. It's still going on. His cars pile into the spray. Not seeing what's going on. Mike Bell's involved. Let's take a look at all the cars coming into the pits at the end of that lap. Tom Voss will be in. And also in... oh goodness, well it's going so fast I can barely tell. Looks like everyone below maybe 20th position's been involved. Tom Vandervoort, Dylan Platt, Dan Hayek. Off there goes Mike Bell. That's a replay. But Mike Bell is in the pits, Isaac Morris, Tom Voss, Ruben Machete, Darren Halstorff, Stan Vleidstra, Maxime Bewley. Absolute carnage on the opening lap of the race. Anyway, up front, Damien Scaron now leads by over a second as we continue to watch replays of drivers with damage heading back to the pit lane. He leads by over a second. Slight mistake from Tuamala. May put him under pressure from Andre. But Mike Quint holds second as well. It may end up being Quint versus Tuamala that becomes the first major battle up in front to look over. Incidentally, of all the drivers exiting the pit lane now, none appear to have retired just yet. It appears that all of these drivers are going to attempt to continue in the race. And to be honest, that's a wise thing to do, because in wet conditions like this may end up being a race of attrition, and it may end up playing into the hands of the drivers who have come out of the pits in clean air. Interestingly, Kenny Singleton's made up 15 positions on the opening lap as a result of the carnage. And that means, of course, that he is in the points now and passing Tommy Koivunen on the inside up to 130R. Let's hope that they get through cleanly, and they do indeed. Now it looks to me as if the incident on the first lap was oh, and there's another wing flying. Someone's wing flew off there. Who was that? It was... Well, I think it may have been just a remnant of the accidents that we saw a lap ago. Jack Nichols now going up the inside of Maciej Sandak. This is for 11th place now into turn 1. And around goes... Oh, that's Sandak. So Sandak in the gravel. Sandak in the sand, I should say. And outside of the points now. More offs in these terrible conditions. That puts Justin Royan up into P15 now in the Smile Power racing car. Yeah, let's see if the incident at 130R was caused by two cars getting together and then the rest of the field just ploughing through in the spray, taking it way too fast, seeing the yellow flags. And sadly, many cars, 10, 11, 12 cars, were caught up in it. It was like Spa 1998. Back to the action. 3 laps done out of 13. These, of course, very quick races. They are sprint races in format. And as a result, not much time for these drivers to to make their positions back. And not much time for the drivers up in front to battle over their respective positions. Tuamala taking a very tight line in 130R there. Now on my screen there does appear to be a rear wing just float. Oh, and Andre cutting the chicane for some reason. But anyway, didn't appear to be bailing out of anything. There does appear to be a rear wing just flying in the air there for some reason, but I think it's a glitch because it doesn't appear to be off any car. Tuamala getting very close now to the back of Quint. Took a look into turn 1, but decided better of it. That would have been a very dangerous one. Kenny Singleton to 13th, look. Great stuff from Kenny. Very clean in these early stages. Up ahead of him, looks like Lahoo and Willis might be about to go side by side. Willis goes defensive, Lahoo decides better of it. Well, the tyre marks through turn 2 there, indicating that drivers have gone slidey through there on more than one occasion. Oh, and a little bit, I think there was a little bit of a lag spike there for Tom Vandervoort in his battle with Isaac Morris, but they appear to have got away with it okay as we speak. Anyway, still looking at Tuamala versus Quint versus Andre, and so we should be. Big twitch for Tuamala. Will this be Andre's opportunity? Dipping wheels into the wet patch. Approaching Spoon. Imagine if it started to rain in this race now. That would be a hugely dramatic turnout. I tell you what, Tom Voss pitting for wet tyres near the back. Now I was waiting for someone to do that because actually, with all of the cars that had accidents earlier on, I was surprised that none of them decided to switch onto wet tyres as a speculative measure, just to gain from any downpour that may be about to come. Because their races are pretty much over unless something dramatic happens, so why not bank on the dramatic? Anyway, down the pit straight, let's watch these 3 battling podium sitters or potential podium candidates fighting over second place. DRS is now available actually. I saw the rear wing flap open on the back of Tuamala and Andre's cars. Dan Herlock does not, or Joseph Herlock, sorry, does not quite have the DRS. But, and that's Jack Nichols up the inside of Massimiliano Riboli and up into 9th place. On Kenny Singleton watch, he is up into P11 now. But yeah, interesting that Tom Voss has decided to go for those wets because that of course makes him the top driver on wet tyres, considering that he's the only one. So if a downpour was to happen, he would be in prime position here. Kenny Leiber just pitted, but that was for wets as well. So I think Leiber might be about to become the top driver on wets. Morris and Machete also in for their second time each. It's a big risk though. Anyway, back to the leaders. Surprised that nothing's happened in this fight yet, as Joseph Herlock gets a little twitchy. Keeps it under control in the Alpha Delta racing car. Scaron appears to be in a little bit of traffic here, passes one of the top esports cars. That appears to have happened rather cleanly. Oh, Luke Mitchell just lost a couple of places coming out of Spoon Curve. And that's because he had a half spin in Spoon. A spin in Spoon. Went over the grass and Darius Andre into the pits. So he sees the rain coming down and blinks first. And look at Quinton Tuamala side by side into turn 1. Tuamala goes through on the inside. Great stuff. It does definitely appear that a little bit of rain is coming down now. Mitchell, Riboli, Singleton, they're all coming in. Now it's going to be about who stays out. I tell you what though, I bet that a lot of these leaders will, because they have everything to lose here. Unless it becomes undrivable, they're going to want to stay out. The dry line does appear to be disappearing though. The pit lane is becoming very busy. Sandak, Riboli, Mitchell, Pelletier, Willis, Ryan, Singleton, Lahoo, they're all in. This is adding some real spice to this race. Now, can Tuamala start to get after Skoron? It's certainly not impossible, especially in these conditions where anything can happen. Skoron, incidentally, the only driver running or lapping in under 1 minute 50 right now. Although I don't think this lap that he's on is going to be under 1 minute 50 because the track does appear to be getting slower now. In the background, we've got a move going on. Oh, that's a backmarker getting out of the way there. Actually, there's a couple of backmarkers fighting between Quint and Herlock right now. So hopefully that stays clean. And that's Stan Bleister fighting with Mike Bell for P28. Darius Andre there, passing Tommy Koivunen. And that's the difference between wet tyres and slick tyres. As into the pits comes Joseph Herlock. So Herlock is in, Quint is in, Morville's in. Herlock is not in, sorry, Herlock's up to third. It's just Quint and Morville who have come in. You're seeing the time difference between the wets and the dries now. Let's see what Darius Andre's lap time is as he crosses the line. Oh, and someone's spinning off. Now who's that going backwards? It was Tommy Koivunen. So Koivunen, who's about to gain a couple of places, he comes past the start finish straight, spins, and possibly would have done well to come into the pits there. He's going to gain 7th for now though. Andre's lap time, well actually it's not representative because he's just come out the pits. Let's look for someone on wet tyres who hasn't just come out the pits. Kevin Morville 1:57, so that's still slower than the leaders on slicks, but only just, and it does appear to be shifting. I do think wets are now the faster tyre, and definitely the safer tyre. Tuamala still dropping back from Skoron, and it's pretty much only the top 3 who haven't stopped so far. Apart, of course, from Koivunen and some other brave souls still lapping further back, and Koivunen's off just to reinforce my point. Just took a quick trip through the gravel and has rejoined the road. You need to be so good here to lap safely on those slicks. Now, do Skoron, Tuamala and Herlock pit this lap? Will they pit at all, or are they trying to brave it out and stick out there for the rest of the race? Here comes Skoron. He stays out. Tuamala is going to stay out as well, I think. And in the background, Herlock is under attack from a backmarker. Oh, I thought that backmarker was going to dip a wheel in the grass. But I think this is all the demonstration you need of how fast the wet tyre is right now. Instantly, that's High Sonneveld he's fighting with there. Oh, and they touch! Oh, Herlock so nearly went around. He saved it. Now, if I was Herlock here, I would be letting Sonneveld through in a heartbeat because there is so much to lose here. Up into 7th goes Mitchell. He passes Koivunen. Surely Koivunen will pit. No, he doesn't. Koivunen knows that he's too far into this race now to stop. Here's the replay of the incident between Herlock and Sonneveld as they touch going into turn 2, and somehow Herlock saves it despite being on those slick tyres. Koivunen just got mugged, incidentally, absolutely mugged by Nichols and Raboli down into turn 1. So Nichols is 8th, Raboli is 9th now. There's a yellow flag in sector 2. I'm afraid we've lost Maciej Sandak from this race, so I think he is our first retirement, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has made quite heavy contact with the wall. Yes, indeed, he has. That was a few laps ago, and it was a huge crash at 130R after getting on the curbs. That car was out on the spot and more. Anyway, and Darius Andre is about 5 or 6 seconds faster than anyone else on track right now. His lap time's 1:54. Scouron's last lap 1:59.9. This is amazing stuff. Willis now side by side with Singleton for 10th place. Gets through, nice. I think Singleton's trying to pass Willis actually, but that was good defense from Willis there. In the background, Koivunen being mugged again, this time by Luke Mitchell. He's going to be lucky to finish in the points at this rate. Through on the outside, Alex Lahiri trouble is, it's so difficult to convince yourself to stop in a race like this, because you think, well, what about all the time I'm going to be losing in the pit lane? Is it really worth coming in? And in a race like this, it looks like the answer is yes, but that really depends on whether Andre can catch Herlock, Tuamala, and Skurrun. He's 10 seconds behind Herlock right now, and if he continues at this pace, then there is no doubt that he will catch him. And I've got to say, for Herlock, holding him back is going to be difficult. Herlock's still right on the back of Tuamala for second place. All of the top three know that they are way too far into this race to stop now. If they did, they would be throwing away any last chance they've got. And look at that, and they touch! They touch! Tuamala gets touched in the rear by Herlock. Has a little twitch. I don't know how you save something like that on slick tyres. Another little twitch from Herlock there. They've got to be so cautious now. But the trouble is, if they're cautious, they know that Andre is just going to sweep straight past them. And Andre is not too far up the road from Quinn. I would be putting my money on Darius Andre to win the race right if I was a gambling person. He may be 15 seconds off the lead, but he is gaining and gaining. The leaders need to hope the sun comes out rather rapidly here, I'm afraid to say. Big slide from Andre. That may be dramatic. Lost maybe half a second or so in that. That could be the difference between winning and losing. I'm going to keep my eye on Tuamala and Herlock for the time being though, because there's no telling how long those cars are still going to be drivable for. Tuamala running wide into the Casio triangle. Herlock, I think, is going to have a chance here down into turn 1. Big twitch from Herlock. Of course, no DRS available now. Gaining, going to the inside. Herlock going for second. On slick tyres, on the wet bit. Somehow keeps it under control. It's a boat race in turn 1, and Tuamala keeps second. Andre was 4 seconds faster than this bunch on that last lap, which wasn't as fast as he was the previous lap, but we did see him have a mistake at Spoon. I'm not sure if he will catch the leader at this rate, actually. Oh, and Herlock's going round. Herlock's going to be in the gravel. So Herlock just going a little too long on those slick tyres. He's still third for now. But he is going to be a sitting duck when Andre catches him. Here's a replay of that. Herlock just getting all sorts of twitchy on the damp patch on the outside and out of control. There's another brief yellow there. We haven't lost anyone else from this race. Amazingly, we still have 29 cars remaining. 24 of those on the lead lap. This is actually one of the cleanest wet Formula Challenge races that I've ever seen, with the exception, of course, of the first lap pileup. Maybe that's why, actually, because they've all been spread out by that, but anyway. Andre is definitely going to catch Herlock any second now. He's got him in full field of vision now. Damien Scarron's still going really quickly here, actually. Yes, nowhere near as fast as Andre, but a lot faster than any of the other drivers on slicks. Hopefully not too fast, but he's leading by 8 seconds. Andre decides to cut the chicane. That's weird. I saw him doing that earlier on in the race as well. And it doesn't appear that he's bailing out of a slide or anything like that. It appears that he just decides to cut across the chicane suddenly. Now GPVWC, is in the background. No, sorry, I thought we were going to see a move going on. GPVWC allows the computer to generate its own decisions on whether a driver should be penalised for track limits or not, but I'm sure the stewards could overwrite that if they had a complaint. Anyway, Willis going to the inside of... Who's this he's fighting? Scott Mitchell here. Luke Mitchell. And has the inside line, but it's very damp there. Ooh. Ooh, and they touch, but he goes through. That was a brave one. Running wide there and back through goes Luke Mitchell. Surprised that Andre hasn't caught Herlock yet, actually. He looked to be much closer than this. I tell you what, Damien Scaron, the track must be getting drier again, because Scaron is now lapping only half a second slower than Andre. Tuamala and Herlock is still quite a way off the pace, but Scaron is flying. Yeah, I believe the track is really coming back to the slick-tired runners, but not to Tuamala and Herlock. Maybe they've just used too much of those slick tyres sliding around a little. I still think Andre is going to finish at least second here. Unless the track continues to dry out too much, of course. Oh, who's that going sideways? Big twitch! And that was one of the backmarking cars that's in that little mix there. That would have been High Sonneveld, I think. Yep. Kept it under control, but it was a big slide. Onto the penultimate lap, meanwhile, goes Damien Scar, and he's only got a couple of laps to go. Keep it clean, Damien. This has been a great drive so far. And Andre's last lap was slower. It was a second slower than Herlock's. So suddenly it's coming back to the slick-tired runners. What a pendulum effect race. It'll be interesting to speak to Darius and assess whether he Brett's pitting for wets or not. On one hand, if he'd stayed on slicks, he would have had the advantage, as he lapped Sonneveld there, would have had the advantage in track position over Herlock. But on the other hand, there's any oh, and Herlock passes Tuamala. He's got him for second. Didn't think they even got close. Did Tuamala make a mistake there? Maybe. I'm going to quickly go back and have a look at that. Oh, he had a big twitch coming out of the Dunlop curve. Big twitch. So that's where the move was made. There you go, there's the twitch. And that was all that Herlock needed. So Herlock now second. Yeah, as I was saying, on the other hand, Darius, if he'd stayed out on slicks, he'd have crashed. And in conditions like these, that is very, very possible. So we're heading towards the final lap of the race now. Just one more lap to go after this one. Can Tuamala come back at Herlock? I think he's too far back unless Herlock makes a mistake. What about Andre? Is he still gaining on Tuamala? Into the chicane they go. Mike Quinn. Oh! And off goes Herlock. Herlock's lost it. Herlock is facing backwards in the chicane. He's doing accidental donuts. Through go Andre and Quint. So Andre will get a podium at this rate. Quint is up to fourth. And that was completely on his own there. Let's watch a replay. Joseph Herlock heading towards the Casio triangle. Does he dip a wheel in the grass? No. Well, the rear just gets away from him. So easy to do in conditions like these. What's the most embarrassing part of that will be how he spun again, trying to get it under control. Back to the action on the last lap of the race. Damien Scorin is bossing this, absolutely bossing this. There he is in the hairpin. Oh, I was going to look up the name for that hairpin, wasn't I? Suzuka. Okay, that hairpin does have a name. It's called Hairpin. That's what the official track map says, so I'm going to have to go with it. Damien Scaron coming through towards the final sector. This is a dominant drive from Damien here. He never looked like he was on slick tyres, did he? He looked like he was on all-terrain, all-weather tyres. Darius Andre might be about to get Tuamala on this last lap as well, but I'll shriek if something does happen. Let's keep watching Scaron. Into the Casio triangle he goes for the last time towards the final corner. Out of the final corner now, keep it on the racing line. Damien Scaron on slick tyres wins at Suzuka. A fantastic drive, and it's utterly dominant too. He's going to win it by 18 seconds. Here are Andre and Tuamala. Andre going for it for the last time. Oh, they rub wheels, Senna and Prost style. Andre's still going to be there on the inside. No, he's not. Will Quint get him on the outside? Quint twitches, and they're going to... Oh, and a big twitch from Tuamala, but they stay second, third, and fourth in that order. Tuamala, Andre, Quint. What a finish. Herlock's going to come home fifth. It's going to be 6th for Morville, 7th for Mitchell, 8th for Nichols, 9th for Raboli, and 10th from the back of the grid for Kenny Singleton, 30th to 10th. Great drive. Keep an eye on Kenny in race 2, especially if he gets reverse grid pole. Also in the points, Luke Mitchell, Ben Willis, Alex Lahu, Kenny Leibier, and Isaac Morris, who will be 15th if he can hold off Jessica Pelletier. This is getting close. Oh, Pelletier's going to hit him. They do touch. They touch. Pelletier nerfs Morris off the road, and Morris retakes it by cutting across the chicane, and to be honest, I think that was a fair one. Morris is going to claim the final point, unless, of course, there's an appeal of some sort. But that looked to be rather fair there from Isaac Morris, and not so fair from Pelletier, who just misses out on points. Then, Tom van der Voort, Ruben Machedi, Tommy Koivunen, Dylan Platt, Tom Voss, Justin Royan, Darren Halsall, Mike Bell, Damir Karatko, Dan Hayek, Stan Bleikstra, and Maxime Bewley are the other cars who finished. And there was one more retirement. Hai Sonneveld retired between last time we saw them and now, and they had an accident in the S's. Yes, Sonneveld lost control after giving way to Herlog, it seems, and crashed out in the barriers on the outside. That's a shame. Only 2 retirements in the race though. It was, of course, Sonneveld and Maciej Sandak. But the real talking point of the race was the way that Jake Denahan failed to even start. Now, hopefully he'll come back for race 2. It says he's pending an open session, but there's no guarantee that he'll actually start the race. There you see the top 10 once again. Damien Scaron, a fantastic victory there. And that is his 2nd victory of this season, because he won race 2 at France. Scaron may have actually been a much bigger contender in the championship, but unfortunately he missed every round from Bahrain through to Silverstone. But in his return, he's been electric. He scored 3 podiums in a row earlier this season, and now he's got a win to his name. And well-deserved too. Tuamala, of course, was 2nd. Tuamala that's his 2nd podium of the season. And Darius Andre, of course, has been a much more competitive driver this year. That's another podium for him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's his 13th podium of the season so far, including those 6 wins that he's got so far. And that means he gets a lot closer to Jake Denahan in the championship and prevents Denahan from wrapping up the championship today. And of course, we expected him to prevent that, but as a result, he has done. There are the rest of the finishers. Still an unofficial race order, but it's official enough to say that's what happened. That's where they finished. And presumably that's going to be the points that they get. There are the 2 retirements, Sonneveld and Sandak, both with crashes of their own. Sandak's a rather spectacular one. And there was, of course, a big pile-up on the opening lap of the race, although luckily no one actually retired in that one. There were a lot of drivers with missing bodywork. A lot of drivers who had to come into the pits and whatnot, but no actual retirements from that one. And I've got to say we were very lucky about that. Okay, we're going to go to a break now, and then we will return, of course, for race 2. There's going to be a partially reversed grid. It's going to be exciting. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to GPVWC for the second race of the day in Formula Challenge round 14. We've had a reverse grid draw. It's 14, meaning that Kenny Leibeer will be on pole position here. And it means that the winner of race 1 is going to have to come from all the way down in 14th on the starting grid. So that's one of the things that's going to really spice up this second race. Not that it needed spicing up, because that first race was fantastic. I'm actually joined for the second race by Menu Klon, who has decided to drop in and help me out a little. Menu, what did you think of, especially the end of that first race? Tense, right?
Yeah, it was really tense from what I saw. The last few laps were quite amazing, and you just see the radius is a bit of a great equalizer, but also the experienced guys like Michael Sumala, they know what to do, and yeah, I was impressed by him. But I actually with a lot of those guys who are. Who were experienced, but also some of the new guys who got it spot on. I would say.
So who do you think we should look out for in this race too? Considering the reverse grid we've got and everything like that, who would be your pick for a victory or a hard charger at least?
Yeah, it will be difficult because you've got the faster guys, I think, a bit in the midfield now, but they will have a lot of spray, I think, from the other cars. So it will be very difficult. But I would say somebody like Joseph Hurlock, if he doesn't make a mistake, I think he can charge to the field. But yeah, I don't count out both the King's Racing cars and yeah, and Luke Mitchell. I think he's ready for the big result, Luke Mitchell. So let's see what will happen.
Indeed. Right, let's take a look at the grid or second race then. As I said before, it is going to be Kenny Leiber starting on pole position, but let's see who lines up behind him. So there's Leiber, Deltec Esports car, and Alex Lahut in the GPVWC Academy car. Well done, Medic. Then we've got Ben Willis and Luke Mitchell in third and fourth, followed by Kenny Singleton, one of the standout performers of race one, Massimiliano Raboli, Jack Nichols, and Scott Mitchell, so both the King's Racing car starting together. Then Kevin Morville, Joseph Hurlock, Mike Quint, Darius Andre. And I tell you what, I'm gonna be very brave and say that Darius Andre is the win here. Then we're gonna say Mikael Tuomala and Damien Scarron, of course, race one winner. And then just missing out on the reverse grid pole, Isaac Morris, followed by Jessica Pelletier. They came together towards the end of race one there. There's Tom van der Voort, Ruben Machete, Tommy Koivunen, and Dylan Platt. Outside of the top 20 now, Tom Voss, then Justin Royan, Doan Halsall, and Mike Bell. So two of the Smile Power cars there, along with the former Smile Power. No, sorry, I'm getting confused. Damir Karatko, P25, then Dan Hayek, Stan Vleitstra, and Maxime Bewley. And then, of course, the drivers who retired or didn't start in that last race, Gijs Zonneveld, Maciej Sandak, and championship leader Jake Dennehan, who has a lot to gain from 31st on the grid. Menno, what do you think he can do from down there?
I think still a lot is possible. You need to keep your nose clean, and then I think you can still move up quite a bit. So for Jake, I think it's just his job he needs to do. It's very simple. He needs to score some points, and he needs to make sure that he keeps the nose clean the first few laps. And I think he has the speed and ability to still get points.
Absolutely. Well, with Dennehan getting a lot of points back on him in that first race, he's still leading the championship, but nowhere near by the comfortable buffer that he had before. I suppose it does make it more fair, though, because, of course, Andre had already missed 2 races due to missing the round at the Langy Court. Anyway, Dennehan's going to make up the rear of the grid. Up in front, of course, we have Leiber and Lahut. And then 31 cars in total, even more than race one, and it's great to see that everyone has made it back. We've gained one, and that's always a good sight to see. Right, watch for the red lights. There are 5 red lights, and when they go out, as usual, we will be underway and heading down to turn 1. Very slippery turn 1, where there's only one correct line in these conditions. Here we go. 5, and off we go in Suzuka. And it looks again to be a good start from P3. Ben Willis coming through on the inside, Lahut losing ground, and not surprising since he was on the damper part of the track. Leiber going wide. Is Willis going to take the lead? No, Leiber keeps the lead. So leads out of turn 2. Yellow flags, Bewley's off. So Bewley off at the back. Dennehan lost a little bit of ground, although it seems to be okay. So I think it was just Bewley who went off at the back there. Oh, and a big kerfuffle in the mid-pack, and it looks as if there's cars going off. Machete was involved, yes, and Tom van der Voort was off. And of course, Ruben Machete, after his second place in race 1, all the way down in 24th place now. That is a big shame for him. And up the front, yes, Alex Lahut does get up to second place.
Look at those diagonal turns. Those are always pretty tricky, but it goes, I think, relatively all right, Caitlin. So, the only guy with damage now is Tom van der Voort, who's now in P13 with losing his nose cone. So Bewley still has got his front wing attached. So he is still in the race, while Tom van der Voort needs to pit for a new nose cone. So Jake Gunhan is just building up his current race now in P27. He keeps building up now. Most of the cars into Spoon. Already exited Spoon, now going
and Mitchell
to
gets a much.
TDR.
Sorry, Mitchell gets a much better exit than Willis. He's up to third now. Look at Singleton. Singleton attacking, and we've got yellows in sector 2. So hopefully everything's okay. It's wide goes Mitchell, and he spins, and it looks as if everyone avoids him, but there's more cars going off.
Rebo leaves off at the end of the 130R, I think, end of the last corner, so he lost his front wing, so he's, I think, out for a good result. Yeah, that's, of course, is something what can happen with all those spray, but let's see, after one full lap, it's Lehoux who's leading for Libeer, so those two are doing very well, and then it's Kenny Singleton in P3. Kenny, Libeer, and Alex Lehoux need to be smart with this. Drive your own pace here in the rain, don't drive too fast, because they've got a good lead on the rest. So the top 5 is now Lehoux, Libeer, Singleton, Willis, and Scott Mitchell. Scott Mitchell already in P5. Watch this guy, he is on a charge at the moment with his teammate in P6.
As the race on the opening lap went Justin Royan, that appeared to be that's what the yellow flag in sector 2 was for, and there's a big crash in 17th place, and further back Darren Halsell appears to be involved, as is Mikael Tuomala. No, Halsell's got through. It was Damir Karatko who was the other car involved, but it looks as if Tuomala was the worst off there. And once again, his race is going from bad to worse as he spins. I should correct myself, actually. Earlier I said that Machete got second place in race 1. He didn't. It was Tuomala who was second, but he is now involved in an accident as well. Riboli and Vandervoort both had to come into the pits at the end of the opening lap. And now Tommy Koivunen is missing his front wing. So both Scuderia Cap Clay cars are missing wings on this lap, I must say. Up the field, Lehoux's leading, but look at Libeer and Singleton. Singleton up the inside, has the drag up the straight. Singleton is on full wet tyres in this race, but then again, so are the top 2. Very wide, Lehoux's losing it. Oh, he keeps it, but also Libeer goes off. And somehow Lehoux held onto his car, kept the lead of the race. Singleton is up to second. Amazing drive. And I should have expected this. So Lehoux did go off. Lehoux did go off. Singleton leads the race. He started race 1 in 30th position. He started race 2 in, I think, 4th. And now he's up to the lead. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
from Kenny Singleton.
I think this is just a race where if you make the least amount of mistakes, then you will do well. And Kenny Singleton, I think, didn't put a foot wrong for now, or at least made less mistakes than the others. So it's Kenny Singleton for Valence, who are struggling sometimes to field a decent grid, because they have got some people, drivers who are having are a bit ill, so they need to replace it with other drivers, and now they're leading the race. So that's actually very good.
Well, that was the replay of Lehoux's off. He was out of control all the way through 130R through to the Cassia.
Yeah.
In the last sector. Oh, big twitch from High Sonneveld, but he's okay. A couple of drivers did come into the pits at the end of that last lap. I'm afraid we've now lost Massimiliano Riboli. I think he had another crash, actually, because he got his stuff repaired.
Oh.
And then disappeared.
Drama at the Cap Clay guys, because both of them needed to pit. So Koivunen now pits and is out of the pits now, and now Mikael Tuomala gets serviced, while Tom van der Voort lost his front wing again, and now he's going to park it. Tom van der Voort is out, Kai Sonneveld is out.
Touch for seventh. Turlock and Willis coming together, pushing each other all the way through Spoon and somehow keeping it under control. And some more yellow flags now indeed. Van der Voort is out of the race, as you said, but also High Sonneveld is out. Let's keep watching up Morris for now as he catches, approaches. And now we're looking at Scott Mitchell, going on the attack on Kenny Libeer. As for Morris and Herlock, Morris has got P7 now, so this is a much more promising start to race 2 than it was to race 1 for the former Nova Finlandia racer, now top esports, a driver who would have been a championship contender had he not missed several races. And now we've got an attack, Jack Nichols going, and he's going to be forced almost off the road on the inside. And, well, he went for it on Ben Willis. Kenny Libeer also leaving the door open a little for Scott Mitchell, but cuts back in. and they stay in their positions. I'm gonna have a quick look back to see what happened to High Sonneville, but it appears that he had an accident out of the Degners on the last lap as Dylan Platt now loses time. Dylan Platt, remember, was the pole sitter and is having a much well, he's not having much luck in this race, is he? Dropping down the order, and he wasn't the pole sitter. I'm making that up, but anyway, carry on.
So Kenny Singleton is still leading, and he is much faster than the guys behind. So he actually is extending his lead, and I think it's 2-3 seconds now. So I noticed Lehoux and Liebherr are actually just driving their own pace. They cannot go faster than this, and they just try to do it as the best they can. Did you see something happening, Caitlin?
Yeah, it seems that Morris has had enough shoving the gearbox of Joseph Hurlock's car, and he's decided to give Jack Nicholls a go. Nudged him. Oh, and wide. Yeah, very wide went Scott Mitchell. Just turns in for the spoon curve. That's going to give him a bad exit speed. What about Willis? What about Nicholls and Morris? Are they going to have an attack? Well, I think 130 is a little bit off limits, especially in these conditions. But down into turn one, who knows? Keep watching this battle. Big twitch again for Jack Nicholls. Morris coming through. Sorry, that was Mitchell and Willis. I got the names wrong. Oh, and they touch. They bang wheels on the exit of the Casio Triangle. Still under control, just about.
Oh, look at Nicholls. Look at Nick's exit on Willis. Exit on Willis. Willis is defending. And now we're going to turn one, but I think the car of Jack Nicholls has more speed, but he doesn't have the inside. I think he will still pass him around the outside, yes. Willis knows he needs to let this one go. He can find him later. So, let's see what the top six are. Singleton, Lehoux, Liebherr, Mitchell, Nicholls and Willis. And both of the King Racing cars look pretty fast, but they can't find a way on the podium just yet. But I think that's close to happening.
Whoa!
Well, I see a big twitch from Jack Nicholls, and now Isaac Morris wants to go around the outside, but there is no grip there. Also, I can't believe my eyes what I'm now seeing. Who is in P14? Caitlin, you see it as well. Who is in P14 already?
It's Jake Dennehan already from the very back of the grid, P30, P14, and with the number of laps still to go in this race, he could well be on for a top 10, who knows, top 5, I don't know. Yeah. But we know what Jake Dennehan is capable of.
Yeah, now, but if you're Dennehan, you want to have the best execution you can. So don't need to make any mistakes. And that's very difficult. But for now, I think his race is without any mistakes. So let's see where he can end up.
Talking mistakes, Jessica Pelletier made one coming out of the hairpin and has dropped down a couple of places. So Dylan Platt is comfortably in P50 now. I say comfortably, he's got Tom Voss, Ruben Machete, etc. for company, but at least Jessica Pelletier is not part of that battle anymore, and they are about to be passed by Damir Karatko on the exit of Spoon. But anyway, back up front, Ben Willis. Pressure, under pressure, look at this, up the inside, Isaac Morris, who's now on the outside line, but once again that will turn into the inside for the final turn, and there's a huge kerfuffle of cars further back. Morris is undercut, or Willis is undercutting Morris, coming back to him on the exit in the re-liveried Alpha Sierra Sim Racing car. Stays P7 for the time being, so Morris has made up yet another place in this very eventful, very fast-paced race so far. It's amazing actually. These cars don't seem to be, these drivers don't seem to be too scared of sniffing each other's gearboxes from time to time. And I'm really expecting someone to go spinning off the road every time it happens, but somehow they all seem to be under control. Kenny Singleton is really trying to prove himself as my driver of the day so far. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, and he's now leading by 6 seconds in these conditions after his charge in race 1. Whoa!
And he nearly went off. He's pushing really hard into the Dagners as well. Yeah, he has the fastest lap. So I don't want to give him a commentary scare. But this
White goes
guy...
Nicholls. Sorry, White goes Nicholls, and in contact with Willis. Willis goes around, and that was simply big contact with Andre. Is Andre's wing still attached?
No,
Let's see.
Still attached. It's still attached. Ooh, that was very scary from Andre. Well, Tom Voss is going off.
It wasn't Andre, it was Dennehan, who's already right up there. So what's happened to Andre?
I'm not sure what happened to Andre. Well, Dylan Platt went off at Spoon. So now it's actually happening a lot. And where is Ben Willis? Oh, he's out of the points into P17. Oh, that's really unlucky for him.
Andre and Denahan are right together on the track all of a sudden. And Andre is behind Denahan. He's not got going in this race, but I'm sure he was further up the field than that just now. So maybe something has happened. Yeah, it appears that Andre's just never really got going in this race. The rain appears to be coming down even harder now. And as we head onto the start-finish straight once again, Denahan going for a move on Scaron, race 1 winner, up the inside. And if he can pull this off, that will prove what we already knew. And Jake Denahan goes through P11 now. Definitely a contender for the top 10. But yeah, what do you think could be happening to Andre, Mano? Why do you think he hasn't really got going in this race?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened with him because we've got loads of things we can watch. I'm not sure what happened. No, I've got no idea. But he just doesn't seem to that he can put the speed on while he's spinning. No, he's nearly spinning on his way to the Dagners. You know, he's outside of the points. He's outside the point. That's not something you can do when you're battling for the championship. But he's now in P16. I think there is damage. Is his steering still straight? Yeah, it looks to be still straight, but the car, doesn't look like there's a lot of speed in it. Maybe it's setup related, but yeah, the car doesn't seem to have any grip, and he's fighting really hard with it. So I think there is an issue because I think Darius can be a lot better when he feels comfortable. So maybe we will hear that later. What's happening?
I wouldn't be surprised if after the race he says that he picked up damage earlier on. Look at this, we got a move going on, and that appeared to be it's Isaac Morris up the inside of Scott Mitchell now, and he goes through to P4. So Morris gains yet another place. They're being held up a little by Kenny Leiber, who has every right to be there. Anyway, so Kenny third, Morris fourth, Mitchell fifth now. As for Andre, it wasn't that he lost time in an instant or something like that. He stayed around that part of the order pretty much the whole way through the race. Into the pits, meanwhile, has come Darren Halsall. He doesn't have damage, so maybe he's just anticipating something. Going on to slicks, maybe? Yeah, going on to slicks. Wow, that's brave. I guess he's doing that thing that I talked about earlier, where if you know your race is over, apart from if there's chaos, bank on chaos. But anyway, Maciej Sundak, I'm afraid, is out the race. He's just made contact with Stan Vlijtstra. Vlijtstra got off okay. Sandak, I'm afraid, did not. So that's 2 races in a row that Sandak has had an accident at 130R. It's the same corner both times, and that's got to hurt.
Yeah,
anyway.
and look back at Isaac Morris. Isaac Morris seems to have be having the pace. He's now in P4, but I think his pace is much better than the 2 guys ahead. So I think he can overtake Kenny Leiber quite fast. And if he finds that gap, he can go to Alex Lahou, who's now in P2. I think Kenny Singleton, if he keeps doing this job, then he will be untouchable for the rest of the race. But that's the question. Well, I saw a big slide from Alex Lahou, so he is pushing his his FC car really to the limit. And Isaac Morris is now close to Kenny Leiber. Will he try it going into the 130R? No, he decides not, and I think that's very wise. I think the better overtaking will be at the start-finish straight if you've got the grip and the launch out of the final corner. This launch isn't bad, but it's also not good enough, I think, for an overtake into turn 1. And Scott Mitchell actually can follow at this part of the race, and I expected him to do so. So that's not happening. Well, I believe driver change, so Quint passed Herlock for P6, so both cars there passed. And Morris is still behind Kenny Leiber.
And Denahan is now into the top 10 and gets a much better exit than Luke Mitchell there, although that's into the S's. He's still there though, look at that. He's not wanting to give up just yet, and they touch. And Luke Mitchell goes sliding, but he saves it. Good job. Anyway, as for Liber versus Morris, if Morris is able to get past Liber and get the victory, or sorry, get a podium here, that would of course be Top Esports' first ever podium in GPVWC. So keep your eyes on that team. Keep everything crossed. Of course, Kenny Liber won't be, but for his own rate. Look at that up the inside, and they do bang wheels, and Morris is through. And I don't think there's going to be any damage from that. So Isaac Morris does take third place in this race now. Whoa, as Skyron and Mitchell and a bunch of others all come together there down into the hairpin. Banging wheels. Jake Denahan is... No, that's Darius Andre now. Oh, and a big switch. And off into the wall goes Damien Skyron, winner of last race, has been binned.
Yeah.
And that was after... That was after wheel-to-wheel contact with Andre, but he was losing control even before the contact with Andre, so it wasn't anyone else's fault, I'm afraid to say, but Scarron's own, and he's going to have steering damage after that one. But anyway, here we're seeing an onboard replay of what just happened, and it's going to show pretty much everything I just said
and Mitchell off! Denahan crashes with Luke Mitchell, and Luke Mitchell is off into the 130, and that could have been much bigger crash than it actually was. But Luke Mitchell is off, and he's not spinning, and I think he collected Mike Bell. Is it Mike Bell? Mike Bell! I think, oh, Mike Bell is... Whoa, oh, he got collected there, my God. That was scary.
Well,
and especially now, when you don't see anything with the spray, that was, yeah, well.
Denahan's got away with it, and actually Bell... Bell did go for a spin, and he did hit the wall, but I think he's still got all his wings attached.
Yeah, the car is damaged.
Mitchell hasn't. Mitchell's going to be out of the race, I'm afraid to say. But yeah, big collision there between Denahan, Bell, and Mitchell. And well, I don't want to judge that one just yet. I've also lost Maciej Sandap. We've also lost Darren Halsall since last time I said. Halsall, I'm afraid, not the best of drivers in the wet. And I'm afraid he has been off further back on those slick tyres.
I think that was quite interesting. I looked at Halsall's progression. He was fastest purple sector 2 in purple sector 3, but he crashed, so that's why he's out. And I think I know especially why he did that. He wanted to steal the fastest lap away, and I think he wanted to test for his teammate, which is Kevin Morville, if it was all right to switch for the dry tires. But yeah, in the end he crashed. Went for I think for a wet patch.
Oh,
but the pace was there.
Just ran off actually. Morville just ran off the road, and Tom Voss got through into 10th. So in a race like this, it's too short to be testing things like that. But anyway.
Morris is off. Isaac Morris went for it. Went for a move. Ooh.
And
he spins! Isaac Morris spins, and there goes his podium! His podium for Top Esports. Oh, he nearly had it into the back, but he wanted too much. And now he's in P7. Yeah, it stays P7. Oh, he had that podium in the back. He was faster than Liber and Lehoux. But now those two are on podium course. That would be something if he can get this podium. We will have Kenny Singleton then winning the race with Lehoux his first podium and Liber's first podium. I think all drives would take the first podium in well, at least for this season, but also I think the first overall in the Formula Challenge Series. So let's see how this will turn out, Caitlin.
Well, Murray's down into P7, so Liber third, Mitchell fourth, then Quint and Herlock, and then Morris. Kevin Morville now back up into the top 10. He's got past Tom Voss as we're speaking. More yellow flags in Sector 3. That makes me sigh every time I see that, because I know that something's happened. But I think it may have only been a quick spin, because I don't see anyone missing wings or anything of that nature. Kenny Singleton, meanwhile, is leading this race by 6 seconds now as everything kicks off behind him. Lehoux has a decent advantage over Kenny Liber as a result of Morris's brief off. And then, of course, you have the battle between Liber, Mitchell, and Quint over third position. We're watching Darius Andre all over the back of Ruben Machedi now. Some of the top names from race 1. And behind them as well, Skyrun. No, that's not Skyrun. That's a driver who's a lap down, I think. Anyway, Ruben Machete attempting to get past Dylan Platt. Platt stays P12. Behind them, Darius Androni P14. Jay Denahan is so lucky he got away with that contact earlier on. Oh, his Voss goes up the inside of Moorville. He was so lucky he got away with that contact as Voss spins and does not get away with the contact. Off as well go Dylan Platt and Ruben Machete. And there's a big kerfuffle in the final corner there, and he's right on the racing line, so hopefully he gets going soon. He does, and no other cars get involved, but another little bit of chaos down at the final turn there. It's been an even more chaotic race than race 1. And that was all started by Tom Voss just losing it and Platt not being able to avoid him. No fault of anyone's really, because in these conditions the car really can just snap away from you, and it happens to the best of us. But anyway, looks as if we're going to have some more retirements there. Machete is out, and Andre's been into the pits. So was he caught out in that as well? Because he is dropped all the way down to P20, and after his teammate did not score points in race 1, Andre's not going to score points in race 2. My goodness. Well, I'm going to take a look back at the replay because I fear he was right behind that instant. No, he dived into the pits anyway. He was coming in despite that instant. So maybe going on to them to try to bank on a downpour. But surely it's way too late to be doing that. Jessica Pelletier is just past Stan Vleitstra. A slight contact there down into the hairpin. And that's for P14. Vleitstra coming back through. And they touch Pelletier, forcing Vleitstra onto the grass. They bang wheels again. And look up front. Guys. Oh, yeah, stay smart. More contact. And Vleitstra is going to run wide. Ooh. That's one that could continue for a while. Now Pelletier is going to run wide.
This could be an amazing race for the Deltec team, of course, who are last in the standings, but they can get a lot of points out of this one. So we keep an eye on it. And I believe we just started the final lap with Ken Singleton now in the lead. And we now have a battle for P4. It's Mike Quint versus Scott Mitchell, who's got the who is the bravest. And for now it is Scott Mitchell, but Mike Quint is pushing in P5. Isaac Morris still in P6. But all those drivers are fighting so hard to keep the car at least on track. I think people underestimate how difficult those the wet is, because you can lose it every step of the way, and that a lot of those drivers are making mistakes is, I think, nothing more than logical. But the most of them still keep it on the island, so that's good.
Final lap now for Kenny Singleton. He's got about half to go. To add insult to injury for Darius Andre, I think he was trying to go for a fastest lap, but he's just had a spin. Mike Bell has got the fastest lap now. He's on slick tyres, but he's not going to be in the points either. We're looking on the last lap at Mitchell versus Quint for P4. There are still quite a few battles that are yet to resolve themselves, but they've got to wrap it up pretty quickly now, because we only have a few more corners to go in this race now. Looks like Leiber is going to finish on the podium, providing he can keep it on the island in the last few corners of this race, and that would indeed be his first podium in GPVWC. He got a 4th place last time out in race 2, but look now at Kenny Singleton, who's coming through the final couple of corners. What an amazing day this has been from Kenny. Definitely my driver of the day.
What a drive! What a drive! I will take my
and Mitchell's crashed. Mitchell crashed with Morris, I think, in the final couple of corners. There's been a big one because he's lost both of his wings. Scott Mitchell's going to drop to 8th, so it's going to be Lahu second, then Leiber, Quint, then Morris, Denahan, Herlock, and Mitchell is still going to be 8th. Then 9th and 10th are Nichols and Moorville. Let me look quickly back at what happened to Scott Mitchell, because something dramatic happened, and unfortunately. And actually, we're going to see a replay of it now. I think it was contact with Mike Quint. Through 130R, there you go. Now, did Mitchell lose it, or did Quint run into the back of them? Quint ran into the back of him. Well, that's what happened. And a lot of damage being done against the crash barriers on the outside there. So that puts Scott Mitchell down to 8th on that last lap. And these results, I should remind you, are provisional. Outside of the top 10, we had... Ben Willis, Tom Voss, Damir Karatko, Jessica Pelletier, Stan Vleitstra getting the final few points places. And outside of the points were Damien Scarron, Maxime Bewley, Dan Hayek, Dylan Platt, Darius Andre, Mike Bell, Tommy Koivunen, Mikko Tuomala, and then all of the retirements, including Ruben Machete, Luke Mitchell, Darren Halsell, Maciej Sandak, Hai Sonneveld, Tom Vandervoort, Massimiliano Riboli, and Justin Ryan. But yeah, my driver of the day's got to be Kenny Singleton. 30th to 10th in race 1, 4th to 1st in race 2. Excellent stuff, Menno.
Yeah, this was really, really an amazing drive, and I think everybody from the top 3 has got their own story. Yeah, Kenny Leiber who jumps in for Delta Esport, who have a difficult campaign and gets a podium. I think I know Marius from Bike, the manager, how happy he is, and then Alex Lehoux, I think one of the potential big stars for Team Academy. Yeah, gets P2. Also a story with that. And then Kenny Singleton, for me, I need to be very honest, not completely out of nowhere, but not like a logical choice, like he's going to win, and he did. So all of them have got such a nice story to it. So I hope we all get them for an interview.
Well, Kenny Singleton, I've just checked his results. He's done only one round in GP this year, and it was an academy round where he didn't even get a top 10. So suddenly seeing him winning a Formula Challenge race, that is quite something, actually. That really is. First of all, let's talk to the team manager who ran the car that won race 1. Marko Ferlich, you must be very proud seeing Damien Scaron crossing the line in first place in that first race there.
Yeah, it was a very difficult race to manage with everyone pitting. So yeah, we got lucky that the rain ended as soon as you did, I think. So yeah, pretty happy.
And Ruben Machete was looking fast as well. Your team looked quick in the wet. Have you been practicing wet setups, things like that?
Not really. We just had a decent setup for dry, I think, and then yeah, once we knew it was gonna rain, we just changed a few things on the setup basically. So yeah, not too much practice in wet, but it turned out to be enough for a race 1 win at least.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, race 2 not so happy. Both drivers, or one of them retiring. No points from race 2. Overall, do you think it's a positive? What are you going to say to Damien when you speak to him?
Well, we at least got some points in race 1, I guess. Race 2, obviously, we got quite unlucky, but still 2 rounds to go, and yeah, a lot of points to get still in fight for the 3rd in the constructors against Kings Racing. So looking forward to that as well.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Marco, and congrats on your team's victory in race 1 there.
Thank you very much.
So I've got a quote from Kenny Leiber, who said he's not going to join for an interview, but what he wanted to say is that he felt that he was pretty lucky to get a pole position in race 2, and he said it was tricky, but it was a case of staying on the black stuff on the dry line, and yeah, he was really happy to give Deltec the deserved podium. So Kenny Leiber is, I think, pretty over the moon with that P3. But I believe we've got others who want to go for an interview. So Caitlin, you can drag them in, and then let's go for an interview with all of them.
Okie dokie. Well, let's start with our race 2 victor here, Kenny Singleton, a race 2 victory. Now, you, coming into this round, had never even scored an Academy top 10. How did you suddenly bring a Formula Challenge victory out of the blue?
Honestly, I don't even know. Of course, during the first race, I didn't think I had a chance to go to P10 because I didn't even show up.
So how do you feel about the wet conditions? Did they help you today?
Personally, I'm not a big fan, but I think they did help.
And why didn't you set a qualifying lap? Why we first start from 30 in race 1?
During qualifying, I was in the dry tires since there was a dry line, and each lap I go on to, I keep just going a little wide and spinning out in the wet line.
Okay, so it's a case of a couple of mistakes costing you from getting a lap in at all.
Yeah.
But you well and truly made up for it. P10 from P30 on the grid. There's a lot of carnage for you to avoid, wasn't there?
Oh, there was, especially in race 1.
But you managed to creep through the wreckage, and of course you got that reverse grid 4th place, and then up to the victory. How does it feel to get your first Formula Challenge victory on your very first attempt?
Yeah, it's unwordable how I'm going to explain it, honestly. I mean, my first time being in the Formula Challenge, it's just unwordable how I would explain it.
I can tell you're pretty speechless today. Are you going to be back?
For sure. If
Fantastic.
for my seat, I don't know if it's a one-time thing or it's permanent, but
Well, I want to add something to that. I mean, Kenny, you did amazing with this result, and I think with this win, I think you showed that you belong in Formula Challenge. So I guess that's the biggest advertisement you can make, and I guess we will see you back. I mean, it would be foolish if you not see you back. And I was really impressed with how you drove in the rain. And of course, you had a few of moments in the rain, but I guess you had it all under control, Kenny.
yeah. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of rain.
No, but I think today it helped you a lot because I think visibility behind you was, I think, pretty poor. But yeah, I guess after a few laps, they even didn't see your spray because you were too far ahead. So yeah.
Yeah, 6-second wait, something like that.
Yeah, so that was quite good. Caitlin, anything to add? Because we've got other people
Yeah,
who
well,
want
thank
to
you
get
very
to-
much for talking to us. We do have to move on to someone else now, but yeah, thank you, Kenny, and congratulations on your first victory at your very first attempt in Formula Challenge.
Thank you.
Okie dokie, let's move on to the driver who stood on the podium right next to Kenny there, Alex Lahu. First of all, Alex, are we pronouncing your name right?
Hi, I think so. I didn't check the stream. I was just full focused.
Lahu or Lahu?
Lou.
Lee, okay, it's okay. Yeah, thanks for correcting us on that one. Anyway, a podium finish. I know you're quick. You've obviously got a couple of academy podiums to your name, but stepping in with the reserve academy seat, were you expecting to be quite so competitive today?
To be honest, no, I was expecting to be in the midfield, but I actually did a pretty okay quali in race 1. But then the grid penalty struck because of the collision in Singapore with Ben Willis.
And that, of course, put you a little way down on the grid. But it was really race 2 where you started to come through. After getting up to P13 in race 1, suddenly you found yourself second.
Yeah, in race 1, when I was in P22 on the opening laps, there was a massive shunt. I managed to avoid everything without getting punted, so I guess that's an achievement. And I finished P13, which is enough to get into the little thing, sprint quali. I don't know how they call it.
Fair enough. In terms of the conditions, do you think they helped you, or are you like Kenny, who's going to pretend that you struggle in the wet?
No, they didn't help me. That was the first time I've ever drove in the wets.
Wow, that's quite something. Okay, well, congratulations for your P2. Manny, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah. Actually, not that much. I was really surprised how you did in the race because I know, of course, with Academy you've got the pace, but then to translate it to, I think, to a wet Suzuka race, I think you did really well, and I think like Kenny, yeah, you made a lot of name for yourself, and I think you can be proud for future rounds. I believe you've got a future round already lined up for Formula Challenge, so that's very good. So I think you can be really proud on this result.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
So that was Alex Lahu, second place. I think we're only going to have time to speak to maybe one more driver. So let's talk to. Oh, sorry, Isaac. I brought you in mid-sentence. Isaac, do you hear us all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Jolly good. So unfortunately, you weren't able to bring home Top Esports final or first podium finish there at the end, but you got very close. What exactly went wrong in the end?
So race 1 wasn't fantastic. But in race 2 we had some really good pace, and the setup was really good in the wet. But when the dry line started to form, I think I used like way too much tread on the tire too quickly. I got them really hot and just wasn't managing them properly. And then trying to make a pass on Alex, I just got on the wet line and just had no grip, locked up, and just went straight on. Really thankful that Alex was away, that I was there, but just completely misjudged the wet line, hoping that the wet line would work, considering we're on wet tires. But it felt like I was driving slicks towards the end of the race. But that's where it went wrong, really. It was just the tires weren't there at the end. But I'm happy to come away with P5, potentially P4, if Mike gets a penalty for that last chicane incident. But just overall it was a fun round, even though there's a lot of carnage. It's always fun to drive in the rain.
There was indeed a lot of carnage. Were you involved in the first lap pilot?
I was, yes. I couldn't see anything going on ahead, and I saw a car go off on the left, so I stayed off the racing line. And then I was on the slicks at the time, so I was trying to slow my car down on the wet patch, but I just locked all 4 wheels and I was just sliding forward. I couldn't go anywhere, and I ended up hitting an AFP and lost my front wing, but managed to swap to the wets later on in the race and pull off a point. So it was kind of rewarding getting that 1 point.
Well, still a double points finish in the end. How different is Top Esports to Nova Finlandia, and do you feel comfortable in the car so far?
I'd rather not comment on that, because it's 2 different teams, and two different outfits. We're all going to run a team differently, or people are going to run teams differently. And obviously I don't want to say anything bad about Nova Finlandia, and I don't want to slander them in any way, because the relationship's still good between me and them. And I just don't think it'd be very fair saying what's good, what's bad about the whole situation.
That's understandable and very professional, but anyway, thanks for speaking to us. And unfortunately, you couldn't bring home a podium in the end, but you still got double points finish, and that's a fairly good result.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. But thank you very much to Szymon Frelik for broadcasting the full thing and showing you all of the cameras that you saw. Thank you to Menno Klunt for jumping in for race 2 there, as well to everyone who I interviewed just then. It really helps the end of the broadcast. And thank you all for watching, dear viewers. Of course, we're going to be back next week for some Super Cup, Super League Light, and Super League action. I think Super Cup's actually later this week, but anyway.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It's on Thursday. But anyway, and of course, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be back for Formula Challenge at let me double check that. Is it Brazil or is it Kota next?
Kota,
I think it is Kota, indeed. So it's Kota next and then Brazil 2 weeks after that. But next week we could start seeing champions. So definitely don't miss that. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and see you then. bye.